EyeOpener. You can't beat the rich in poker, at least in those versions where the stakes can continually be raised. Just imagine sitting down and trying to outbid someone with virtually unlimited resources. Someone who can potentially continue to raise the stakes well past the point at which your Rolex watch can save you, even past the point at which your overpriced truck or car could make a difference. And when you offer up the 2,000 square foot McMansion you paid way too much for, the man seated across the table from you whips out some more Monopoly money he earned from the monopoly, or near monopoly, from which your government allowed him to profit. Or imagine sitting across from someone you voted into the federal government. Someone like Mitch McConnell, who's overseen America's decline since the last century. Or Nancy Pelosi, who has become a million, at least 100 times over, through what is basically insider trading. Something for which the rest of us would go to jail. My claim above is not hyperbole, as Pelosi herself has all but said insider trading should continue to be legal for members of Congress, who should be allowed to trade on the foreknowledge of pending laws that will impact the stock market.
And I don't think it's a stretch to say Pelosi has had information that the rest of us haven't had, since she consistently beats the world's best hedge fund managers in the market. And the last piece of evidence that I will present is that given the annual salary of a U.S. rep whose name rhymes with Pelosi would only have earned $12 million in the more than 4 decades she has been a public servant, yet she has somehow amassed a net worth of over $100 million. And the $12 million of which she's earned could only have been achieved if she never paid taxes on her income from Congress, and she never had to spend a dime of the gross on food, gas, housing, all the things the rest of us have to worry about. So imagine sitting at a poker table with her, the Jeff Bezos from a few years back and Helen from last year, before those silly people started wiping poop on Cybertrucks. Unless you had more than 100 million in assets to put up, you would be the first player knocked out of any game that allowed unlimited raises. And Fancy could do that all on her own. Don't worry, however. Jeff Bezos from a few years ago, when he was only worth $150 billion, could take out Pelosi and over 1,400 of her friends. That is if each one of those 1,499 friends were also worth $100 million each. You see, Bezos was only worth $150 billion a few years ago, but even at that low amount, it would still take 1,500 people worth $100 million each to call his bluff. And then there's Helen. At a net worth of $450 billion, it would take 3 Jeff Bezos from a few years back, or 4,500 Pelosis, and 1 million or more of you to call Muskie's bluff.
And here's a side note. All of those people damaging Teslas and the dealerships that sell those vehicles aren't really hurting Elon. They're actually hurting the average public servant whose pension is invested in Tesla. Elon can still buy whatever he wants and still save astronauts stranded in space by Boeing and Biden. Elon can still buy the biggest houses and yachts and caviar. He can even get an experimental surgery to replace his bowels with an Airwick dispenser so he could claim his feces doesn't stink and be the only human to accurately make such a claim. Elon can still buy all of these things and still leave his great, let's just say generations of his offspring a lot of money and still eliminate you from any high-stakes game you play against him. So the next time you idolize a billionaire, or even a millionaire, consider the fact that to win in such a big way, there must be millions of people who had to lose. And whether or not you believe or you are one of the losers in the above scenario doesn't make the fact that you and I are any less so. There are plenty of people reporting and complaining about our leaders and their failures. How many, however, are offering or even pointing to any solutions? The book Solutions. Enough complaining, Let's Fix America by Chris Osman does and can be found on Amazon or at www.mikesonsentertainment.com. To find out other ways you're being screwed by your current leaders, check out the posts on this blog daily. Learn about the biggest and worst issues that America and its people face today. You can also check into this blog daily to hear about those issues that America and its people will face in the near and distant future. If, however, you would like to discover possible solutions to either mitigate the worst impacts of these issues or solutions to avoid them altogether, keep listening. The problems we face are not as complicated as so many leaders and news reports claim. They are man-made and are only claimed as complicated so those who are responsible can maintain control. For example, there is a persistent argument that moving government is like turning a cruise ship around. It is supposedly a long process that can only be achieved incrementally. While this may be true for laws and policies that benefit the majority of Americans, it does not seem to be so for that smallest of American minorities. When one examines the policies and laws that benefit that minority known as the elite or the rich, the speed at which those laws are passed is exponentially faster. While most of us sit on the deck chairs waiting for the Titanic to avoid the myriad of icebergs of which we seem to continually run afoul, the elite ride comfortably in speedboats. If according to the Declaration of Independence all men are created equal, why do the rich live quite different lives than the rest of us? Where is our speedboat? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provides solutions, offered up from himself and others, to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyze, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions, Enough Complaining. Let's Fix America offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. Stop sitting at the rich kids' table. Click the link below and get your copy of Solutions today.